First on 4, keeping it in the family can have devastating results. Dispatches investigates what happens when cousins marry.
Mohsen has a rare genetic disease which is gradually destroying his body. He was born with it because his mother and father are first cousins. More than half of British Pakistanis marry their first cousins. Tonight on Dispatches, the tragic consequences of a cultural practice that is devastating children's lives. Mohsen Akhtar is 17 years old and lives with his family in Bradford. He's the second of 6 children. He's blind, he can't walk properly and needs round-the-clock care. Mohsen's younger sister Hina is 13. She's the Akhtar's 4th child. Her sister Zainab is 11. Both sisters have inherited the same disease as Mohsen. They can neither see nor hear. All 3 children have an extremely rare genetic disorder called mucolipidosis type 4. Their bodies cannot get rid of waste products properly, affecting everyday brain function from vision to movement. The potential consequences of first cousin marriages are tragic and devastating. My grandparents are first cousins. 5 of their daughters died in childhood and 3 of my uncles were born deaf. At the time no one knew why because the facts were not known. Today the medical facts are established, but the practice continues. Here in Bradford, where the Akhtars live, 75% of Pakistanis marry their first cousins. Anywhere between 4 and 10% of the children in these families will be born with genetic abnormalities. And these illnesses are often fatal. 1/3 of children with diseases caused by recessive genes will die before they turn 5. The disease affecting Mohsen, Hina and Zainab is the direct result of their mother and father being first cousins. Both parents carry the recessive gene that has caused the children's disabilities. If they had married outside of the family, there would have been only a tiny chance of their children being born with the genetic disorder. But in the case of the Akhtars as first cousins, the odds narrowed dramatically to a 1 in 4 chance that any child they had would be born with the illness. In the event, 3 of their 6 children were born with the disease. Over in Birmingham, home to one of the largest Pakistani communities in Britain, 50% marry their first cousins. The children born into these families are 10 times more likely to be born with recessive genetic disorders, and 1 in 10 of those will die in infancy or suffer a chronic disability. Doctors in Birmingham have grave concerns about cousin marriages, or as they call it, consanguinity. Dr. David Milford is a renal specialist at the Birmingham Children's Hospital. He says the problem is on the rise. What kind of impact of first cousin marriages have you seen in this hospital?
In my own specialty, which is children's kidneys, we've seen from national data, comparing figures from 2004 to recent figures 2008, 2009, we've seen that the proportion of consanguineous relations with genetic disease, we've seen that increase from about 17% to 21%. So certainly in our own very small specialty area, we have seen a change. Most of the consanguineous marriages are within Muslim, Pakistani and Bangladeshi families. So for us it's wherever populations of those origins, where they're concentrated, that's where we see the highest amount of genetic disease.
What kind of pressure do these cases put on the resources that you have?
We see some children with very serious disease. We've had children who presented soon after birth with kidney failure requiring artificial kidney treatment, and they then go on to require kidney and liver transplantation to correct their genetic defect. And then we see other children who are more mildly affected, who have some degree of kidney impairment, but not enough to require artificial kidney treatment or transplantation. So it's quite variable.
A major report published in 2008 shows that 1/3 of all children suffering from rare genetic diseases are British Pakistani, yet they only make up 1.5% of the total population. More than 70 published British scientific studies have shown that cousin marriages lead to an increased chance of having a child born with a rare genetic disorder. A significant number of these children will have serious kidney or liver problems. Cousin marriages have been a long-established cultural tradition amongst many British Pakistani families. But it's not just within this community. In the past, the British royal family married their first cousins too. Today, though, it is mostly Pakistani, Bangladeshi, and some Middle Eastern and East African families that continue the custom. At least 5 research papers show cousin marriages are on the rise in the UK and have been increasing for the last 3 decades. On the streets, though, we found quite a number of British Pakistanis who thought the practice was wrong and suggested that young people only went along with it because of family pressure.
I personally think it's wrong, do you know what I mean? Like, everything aside, right, but first cousin marriage, it's a bit wrong. I think it's a bit incest, to be honest.
When it comes to sleeping, you think, no chance, I can't do it. But it's just like sleeping with your brother, do you know what I mean? And it's just horrible, that is.
So what kind of pressure do you think there is on people to marry their cousins?
Like, no. I think it's... Mother goes, oh, I'm going to, we call it drama bazi, where they will say, better please marry this girl, please my izzat, which is my respect, my honor is on it.
Well, most of the cousin marriages are forced marriages, I mean, to be honest. Most of the girls get forced into it, or most of the boys get forced into it. Dad will come home and say to your sister, right, so-and-so, you're getting married to. Why? Because he's your cousin's brother, or something like that. And then the girl has to say yes. I mean, she's got no other choice, does she?
When you say forced, you mean that like, they want physical
what's the word? Emotionally blackmail. Yeah. They've been told, oh, we are parents, we did all this for you, blah, 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 we can't do this country, blah, blah, blah. And now you can't do this for us. It's your turn now. We've done our bit.
Have you been in that position?
Not yet, hopefully not.
Most first cousin marriages in the UK are between British Pakistanis. A change in immigration law has made it harder to marry a spouse from abroad. However, first cousins are sometimes still brought in from Pakistan. The government's forced marriage unit says they deal with 1,500 cases a year, half are linked to Pakistan. Some involve young British men and women who are pressurised into marrying their first cousins against their will.
How did you feel about that at the time?
Really angry because I wasn't asked. It wasn't even considered. I was very, very angry.
I met Zara, who is British but married her first cousin from Pakistan. She asked us to hide her identity.
We met when I went to Pakistan with my family, and then a couple of weeks later I was told that I was going to be engaged to him. I refused to marry him. It was about 2 weeks before we were due to get married.
Were you forced into it?
I was emotionally blackmailed, yeah, I was. My husband's family, they went on hunger strike. They said we're going to commit suicide, this, that. It was a matter of their honour because I'd been engaged to my cousin for a long time. And so I was kind of emotionally blackmailed into it. And it's still going on. My friend, she was married to her cousin and money got involved and they went to Pakistan to sort the situation out, and they were in court, and as she was walking out of court her husband shot her. She was pregnant at the time. People out there, it's just frightening.
Were you ever worried about anything like that happening?
Yes, yeah. And in the future of that happening.
First cousin marriages can end in tragedy. Just recently a British couple was shot dead in Pakistan. Here in the UK, the bigger problem is the medical issue. In part 2, we discover people are denying the health risks of cousin marriages.